Inside Racing is brought to you by Dunlop.
England, the Midlands, Rockingham Castle, a small, sleepy little town. Almost as if time had stood still. But then, once a year, it gets really loud. The BTCC descends and battles to the bitter end. 3 sprint races in one day with no pit stop and hardly any breaks. But before the racing, there's a lot to prepare. Inside Racing takes a look over engineers' and drivers' shoulders. The cars have to be adapted to the circuit and weather conditions. Key to getting the cars on the grid and finding the right setup are the free practice sessions and qualifying.
The task with the setup is to maximise the total performance of the tyre as it degrades. With a front-wheel drive car, we have, like many of these cars here, they have what's known as rear steer. So what happens is the rear of the car is actually forms almost a steer component, and we can give it more rear steer and less rear steer, and this also has a direct impact on the tyre temperature, because it means that the driver with more rear steer will have to use less steering input to get the car to go around a corner. Less steering input is less load into the tyre.
It's one of those we really have to be guided with what the engineers need in the chassis. Camber we do struggle with because of the nature of the turbo. It delivers a lot more, or the boost low down delivers a lot more torque. And that does chew the tyres up. So we're very, very limited on the amount of camber that we can run, so we have to stand the tyres up. Everything is a compromise, and we just, every test session that we do, or every race, we're trying new things with the car to get the tyres to last and really get the maximum traction from it.
This is looked after in the BTCC by no less than 24 technicians and engineers. The large teams such as Chevrolet, Honda and Aon have their own tyre engineer. Great work's expected of them during free practice.
During free practice they scrub the tyres in, so they put the tyres on, go out for one lap, come in and take them off. This helps the tyre performance-wise. It makes it a better performance throughout the race once it's had a heat cycle through it.
Reading and feeling the tyres is one of the driver's most difficult tasks. Finding the right race temperature and getting your driving style in tune with car and tyre.
It's all about experience with the tyre. It's not a case of just bolt on a tyre and leave the pits and go flat out. You got to feel the tyre. You have to run them on lower pressure to start off with, and you have to feel everything, warm up. You have to get the rubber and the compound at the right temperature, and the tyre wall has to be nice and warm, and your brakes. And then you got to get the perfect exit out the last corner. You got to really feel it. We just have one slick and one wet, and our wet tyre is very good. It's basically a cut slick with a softer compound. I've run them for a lot of years now, so I know them as good as anybody.
It's only the technicians, however, who dream about tyres. 800 pass through their hands every race weekend. The teams bring in their wheels and the yellow lads saddle them up with fresh uniform tyres. Air out, old tyre off, new tyre on. Air pressure up and wheel and tyre again united. Finally, the wheels balanced using weights and the job's done.
The teams are allowed 16 new tyres for a race weekend and 4 carryovers from the previous race. Wet tyres are free, so in wet conditions they can use as many as they want.
However, every driver has a different driving style, different braking points, varyingly aggressive ways of driving, and different chassis settings. The team has to work closely together here, discuss, test, analyse and adapt.
It's a real happy balance because you obviously want the maximum performance from the tyre, which you can gain by putting more camber on the car and adjusting the tyre pressures accordingly. But what works for one qualifying lap, will not work for a race. So it's important that you can understand the characteristics of the tyre, for the way that interacts with the tarmac for this circuit, and then the engineers can look at it and try and decide what will give us the optimum race pace. You need a real consistent pace throughout, so that's what we're working on.
For the pace to be good, the car has to be in one piece. Crashes, time pressure, changing weather, the setup has to be right. But between races there's little time. After around 100 minutes, the car's got to be ready again.
High priority is to get the car out there. If you don't have any damage, then it makes it a lot easier and you can look more at the setup. Generally what we'll try and do is, if we have a lot of damage, is incorporate some setup changes. We'll never not try and incorporate some, but it is dependent upon the format of the day as well.
The BTCC's technicians and engineers. During such frightening moments, they can only worry and hope.
Inside Racing was brought to you by Dunlop.